Okay, good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf. Today we're doing the Daf It Nedarim, number 74. An amazing share for you tonight. Talking about Yevamos. If you didn't learn Yevamos with me, now's the time to recoup that loss, to learn a little Yevamos with me. Let's start from the Mishnah, Ayin Dal and Aleph on the top. Shemeres Yavam, Bein Liyavam Echad, Bein Shnei Yivmin. Shemeres Yavam basically is a man. Two brothers. One brother was married to a woman and he died without children. And now he has one or more brothers who are called the Shomer Yavam. They're waiting. She's Shomeres Yavam. She's waiting for the Yavam to either do Yibum or Chalitza. So whether there's Yavam Echa, there's only one brother, or there's two brothers or more. Those are Omer Yafer. That says nonetheless, no matter how many brothers are, one person could be made for her Nadar. The Gemara will explain why one person is allowed to do it. Why is he better than the other brother or the other two brothers? Yeshua Omer le'echad avol l'shnayim. That says the only time he can be made for the neder, right? This is before he does chalitza or you. Yeshua says he could, except it has to be a case where there's only one living brother. If there's more than one living brother, he can't. Avol l'shnayim. Rabbi Kiva Omer lo le'echad avol l'shnayim. Rabbi Kiva says it doesn't make a difference. Someone who hasn't done Yibum yet, he's waiting to do Chalitza or Yibum, you can never be made for the nether. And the only way to get out of the nether, if she made the nether, would be to match the nether. Amar Rebbe Lezer states, "My misha shakanu hula atzmo hareu made for nedarel." A woman that he's kona for himself. The Gemara presumably is talking about Arison, even just Arison, right? He's a half Kenyan, right? Betrothal, being engaged, right? In that case, if she's above the age of a Nara. I'm going to tell you what my position about Bogaris is. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it in the regular share. I'm going to say it in the Ian share, but we know it says Bogaris is someone who's 12 years old and 6 Shisha Chadashim. It's hard for me to imagine that Bogaris is someone who's 12 years old. She's a Nara for only 6 months, from 12 years until the age of 12 years and 6 months. Shisha Chadashim, I think, means 6 new years. Meaning those are the years, the teenage years are the years where people, girls and boys during the teenage years, they change a lot. That's really the adolescence, they really change the most. So I think Shisha Chadashim doesn't mean 6 months, it means 6 new years. So I think, usually the age of 18 is when the person is a mature adult. According to most countries, parents have control over their children until they're 18 years old. So that's what makes sense to me. A Nara should be someone from 12 years to 18 years. Bogaris is someone, like Bagris here in Israel. Bagris is when you take the examinations at the end of your high school studies, where you're generally 18, and you go and matriculate to a higher education. So that's called Bagris here in Israel. And Bogaris, I think, is someone who's 18 years old. So getting back to our discussion earlier, Nara Murasa, if she's a Nara between 12 and 18 years old, right, and she's engaged. So normally the husband and the Arus and the father are made for her Nadarim. So here, the Arison, according to Rebbe Lezer and Yeshua, it at least has the status of Arison, and we'll see that the Gemara says he's made for Nadarim together with the father. Rebbe Yekiya says no, it's not even Arison, and therefore, no, he can't be made for Nadarim. So, I'm a Rebbe Lezer, my Isha. Right? If he does Arison, he's made for Nadarim along with the father during Arison, and after he does Nistuin, he's made for the Nadarim himself. It's a stronger Kenyan, right? It's against his will, right? Yibum, constantly Yibum. There's some sort of Zika. We learn in Zakas Yavamos. There's some sort of connection between the Yavam, the brother, and the wife of his deceased brother. So there is some sort of connection, and they're makdem in a shamayim. The Kenyan really halfway is done through just the fact that he's the brother of someone who died and left a wife without any children. So in that case where shamayim starts the Kenyan, certainly in that case, he should have the ability to make for the Nedarim. Amar Rabbi Akiva said to him, "Lo imamretz isha shakan hula atzmo she'en lacherim barushus." No, he says it's stronger when you do the kiddushin, you do the Arison yourself. Why is it strong over there? She'en lacherim barushus. Right? When you do a Kiddushin, right? The Gemara in Kiddushin says, the reason it's called Kiddushin, you answered her like a piece of hektish in the entire world. She's only materials to you, she's answered to everybody else. Right? When his brother dies without children, he leaves over a wife and a brother. So there's other people that have the opportunity. Now, what this means, we'll clarify in a second. At least if there's more than one brother remaining alive, so there's potentially Yibum or Chalitza potentially done by both brothers, right? It's not just exclusively to one brother. And even if there's only one brother, there's still a concept of Yivam L'Shuk, that she is halfway Muteris L'Shuk, halfway not. That's why it's not adultery if she goes outside without Yibum Chalitza. She goes and is together with a man who's outside of the construct of Yibum. That's is there a lav in the Torah, but it's not like an HSC where it would be, or an Arusa where it would be, a penalty of Chiv Misa. Right? In case of Yibam, where Hashem makes the kinyan for you, other people have Rishus. I'm going to be sure. So Rabbi Shua said to Akiva, Dorecha b'shnei Yivmin. You make sense when it comes to two brothers who are left over, right? Or three brothers, one died. So then other people have Rishus, right? The two brothers have a possibility of doing Yibam or Chalitza. What would you say in the case of Yav Mechad? He has exclusive rights in that case. Amar lo, so Rekiva retorted, Eina Gemara, Eina Yavama Gemura Liyavam Kashem Sharusa Gemura Leisha. Right? Kedushin or Erison, she belongs exclusively to that man. No one else is allowed to marry her. Like I was explaining before, she's not Gemura to him in the fact that, again, if she, even though it's usher for her to be together with a different man before Chalitza or Yibam, nonetheless, it's only a lav. Yavam L'Shuk is only a lav. That's what Rabbi Kiva meant to say. The Gemara says, Bishlam Rabbi Kiva Savar Ein Zika. The Kiva obviously holds there's no connection even after the brother dies. He leaves over a wife, child without children. There's no Zika. Zika we discussed in Maseches. Ibamos, my big machlokas, Tanoim, Roim, Yesh Zika, Ein Zika. Zika basically means that the status, the connection between the Avama and the brother who remains alive is like Eris and Su in the Gemara discusses. There's a connection midaraisa, or if you hold Ein Zika, there's no, according to Rekiva, there's no connection at all. And therefore, obviously, there's an opportunity, there's a mitzvah to do Yibam or Chalitza. However, there's no connection halachically. There's nothing binding, legally binding the two together. There's only a mere mitzvah. Rabbi Yeshua Savar Yesh Zika. Rabbi Yeshua obviously holds there is Zika. And in a case where there's two brothers, so there's no Zika because you can't have Zika to two brothers at the same time. Ela Relezer, my time. Why did you say even in a case where there's two Yavams, two brothers remaining, how could each one be made for the nether? Zika and Brera. You're going to be holder Zika and Brera, right? Because even we'll say one person, she's awaiting Yibum from possibly two brothers, and one of them is made for the nether, and then he goes ahead and does Yibum, right? Retroactively, after he does Yibum, he's married to her. So we say retroactively, it was the husband who did Hafaras Nedarim. Nonetheless, technically the Gemara states pretty unequivocally that we don't hold Midoraisa, we don't hold of Brera. Midarabanan, maybe we do, but Midoraisa we don't hold of Brera. Amar Rabbi Ami, Rabbi answers for Rabbi Lezer, if you go in Sha'atzav Maimer. Even Rabbi Lezer was only talking about a case where he did Maimer. Now Maimer, we explain in Maseches Yavam. This basically is when the Yavam, he does Kiddushin, he gives her some money, or he gives her a star. Kiddushin. If he does Bia, that's Yibum. That is the mitzvah of Yibum. But he does the other two types of Kiddushin. So that's like a half Kinyan. Maimer, maybe it's called a Midrabanan. When I explain, Rabbi Lezer says Maimer is a little more effective than that. Maimer, Rabbi Lezer Savar La Kibei Shami Dar Maimer Koda Kinyan Gomer. Right? Maimer, according to Beis Hillel, only is a Kinyan Darabanan. But according to Beis Shammai, it's actually like Eresin. We'll discuss in a second whether it's like Eresin or fully like Nisuin. Yeshua Omer Lacha, or Yeshua will say to you, Hani Mili B'chad Yavam. When does Beis Shammai say that's Kona Kinyan Gomer? That's when it's talking about there's only one remaining brother. Al B'shnei Yivmin Lo. By two Yavams, we wouldn't say that. Mi Kamidi D'chi Asi Achui Asra Leb B'Biel B'Gita Mefer. Right? Because even if he does Maimer, technically, right, even according to Beis Shammai, it's Kona Kinyan Gomer. Nonetheless, if there's another brother, he does Maimer, he does a Kiddushin to her, to the woman who is married to his brother, And then the other brother jumps in before he has a chance to do Yibum, which is the Bia. He has a chance to be together with her. He jumps in and he gives her a get, right? Or he does Bia, he does the Yibum, so that ruins it. He can answer it for the first brother did Mimer, right? In that case, they'd both be Aser because one did Mimer, one did Bia. I guess so. They both be Aser to marry. They both have to do one. They have to do Chalitza or Mefer. So it's not a full marriage because the other brother can ruin it. Rekiva Savar ain't Zika, and Rekiva holds. Obviously, like we said before, there's no content of Zika, whether it's one Yavam or two Yavam, it doesn't help. Well, there's a Damar Mimer Lebeit Shammai ain't Kona El Lidchos B'Saram. Now, it's Machlokas in Mesechus Yevamos. What does Beit Shammai actually hold? We said Mimer, according to Beit Shammai, is Kona Kinyan Gomer. That's one opinion. There's a different opinion Beit Shammai holds that it's not Kona Kinyan Gomer like Arison. It's just Kona to be Docha the Sarah, meaning if there's right, your brother dies and he's married to two wives. Terrible, he's married to two wives, but and you only have an opportunity even with one of them, right? You only let do even to one of the wives. So if you do mimer to one of them, it pushes away the sarah. I mean, you can never do yibum. You can never do yibum to the second wife. It doesn't make it like a kedushin to the first wife. The raisa ma'ikala meimar. What is Rabbi Elazar going to say? Rabbi Elazar, not Rabbi Eliezer. There's a Tana who was, Bar Plukta, who was arguing with Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Elazar was an Amora in Mesechus explaining the Shita Beit Shammai in Mesechus Yevamos. Here we're talking, even that one could say, we're talking in a case where after she has 3 months in front of the Yavam, she's allowed to come to court and sue him, the Yavam, or two Yavams, and especially if one did Mimer, so she could sue that Yavam and say, you owe me either do Yivam or do Chalitza or pay for my my Mizonos, support me. I need to be supported. If you don't want to support me, do Chalitza. So there was a court case. They told him to come to court. They subpoenaed him to court. And he didn't come to court. Right? He baruch. He came, they called him to court and he left. He ran away. The Gemara in Yevamos says that if he runs away, he's chayiv after 3 months to give him Mizonos. Like we mentioned in yesterday's shir, anyone that takes a nether, a wife who takes a nether, she's doing it with the assumption that her husband is going to be happy with it, right? She does it on condition that her husband is going to be happy with it. We talked about that in Yud Ben Sion yesterday, exactly what that means. What does that mean exactly? It's not necessarily that she makes a contingent. The Torah makes a contingent on based the husband says. Now, it's interesting the Gemara uses the statement of Rabbah over here because it seems like the Gemara we said before, I said yesterday, holds like this for Rabbah. What's interesting over here is that who cares? Because he's feeding her, does that make her? He wasn't together with her, so he didn't do Yibum. He just did Mimer. Mimer is only Darabbanan, according to Beit Shammai. It's not going to Kinyan Gomer, or Litchos Basara. So how does the fact that he has to pay for her food make it like Nisuin, like he's married to her? And like Aldas Baila. Baila is not just Eris, it's not Oros, he's the husband. It's an interesting concept that just because he has to feed her, he becomes like the husband. And we invoke the dinner of Pinchas B'nei the Rabbah. If you want a better explanation of that, stay tuned for Iyun Ben Sion in the second share after this, where I'll explain that concept a little better. A new understanding of what marriage is all about. If not, the Gemara on the base says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Umayim Isha Shekana La'atzma Re'il Mefer in the Rehel. We're restating our Mishnah. I'm going to ask a question on Rabbi Ami, I believe. Rabbi Ami says, according to Rabbi Elazar, we're talking about Yatzid Maimer. Certainly, in the case of Yibam, where they forcibly, made a connection between you and your deceased brother's wife, if we said like Rabbi Ami that he was talking about, according to Rabbi Elazar, we did Maimer, the Gemara asks, "Kanal Atzmahu." He was if he did Mimer, meaning he did Kedushin with her. That's not Hikdilom Shamayim. He was calling her himself. He gave her a diamond ring. The Gemara says, "Shekana la'atzma alidei Shamayim." It was a combination, right? Really, the whole concept, the whole construct of Yibam, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua both agree there is Zika. That's the Kinyan min Hashamayim. There's a connection between the wife, your deceased brother's wife, and you. And you further that connection, originally the connection to Hashem, you further it by giving her a diamond ring. Rabbah. So the Gemara says, let us answer a question that Rabbah had. Maimer lebeit Shammai erisin osa onisuin osa. Right? We said before there's two opinions, but one of the opinions was Maimer kone kinyan gomer according to Beit Shammai. That's a full kinyan. What does that mean? It makes like erisin, like they're engaged, or it even makes like they're married. Tivshot nisuin osa. Say it's like nisuin. The erisin osa. If you'll say that it only makes erisin, hatana nara murasa avio ba'al merfir on the red. The first mission in our parak says the husband doesn't have exclusive rights by the arusa. He has to do it jointly with the father. Amrav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Ma Yafer Yafer B'Shutfus. No, could just mean that he has the ability to pay for the Nedarim. He also is important, but again, he needs the partnership with the father, so it's not a conclusive proof. Tanya Nami Haki Rabbi Ami. We have a proof like Rabbi Ami. Shemeres Yavam. The Bryce says Shemeres Yavam Ben Yavam Echa Beishna Yivim Rezer Yafer. Basically, reiteration of our Mishnah, another way of saying it. It says you can be made for. Yeshua says you can only be made for when there's only one brother remaining. Yeshua says never. Right, a woman, right, you have no control over her until you do Erisin. Once he does Erisin, she is completely his. Right, he's Mayfair by himself, and if they did the Nisuin by himself exclusively, and Erison, he has exclusive rights with the father. Isha a woman like a Shomer Yava that is not fully his. Once she comes into his rishus, right, which obviously according to Rabbi Ami means that he did Maimer, right? Certainly, certainly that he should be able to do Hafaras and Darim. Rabbi Kiva said to Rabbi Lezer, if you acquire the woman by yourself, right, you're Ma'aris a woman, you're Makadish a woman, right? Right, he had no chelik ba, right, beforehand. And then when he does Kiddushin or Erisin, no one else, he's the only one that has control over her, not anyone else. Tomar even before he did anything, he did Maimer, other people had rights to her, right? The proof is that a Shemeres Yav, she goes in, even before Chalita, she goes in, is with another man. It only violates a lav. She's not considered married to him. Amar Rabbi Yeshua said, Akiva Derecha B'Shnei Yivmin. Your words make sense when there's two brothers remaining. Mata Al Meisha Al Yav Mecha. What would be the case? There's one Yavam. Again, Rabbi Yeshua holds Yezika. Amar Lo, Rabbi Kiva answered to Rabbi Yeshua, Klum Chalaknu Al Yav Mecha Al Shnei Yivmin. Bein Shalasav Al Maimer, Bein Shalasav Al Maimer. Rabbi Kiva retorted to him. He said, "We're not making distinctions whether there's one Yavam or two Yavams, whether they did Maimer or didn't do Maimer. In all these cases, even if there's only one person, like you say, Rabbi Yeshua, and he did Maimer, it wouldn't help according to Rabbi Akiva. Because like he said, Maimer, according Rabbi Akiva, holds Ein Zika, and all he holds Maimer is only Darabana. Ukishar Dvarim Kenedarim. And just like other things, right, a Yavam really has no power over the Yavama until he does Yibam. Kenedarim, so too is by Nedarim, he can't be made for Nedarim. But Lashon Hazeh Amar Ben Azai, who was a student of Rabbi Akiva, he heard about this argument. Chaval Alecha Ben Azai Shlosh Shemash as Rabbi Akiva. He was upset himself. He wasn't exactly a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, but he was someone who was, a friend of Rabbi Akiva. He says, when he heard this argument of Rabbi Akiva, was such a good argument, he says, I should have been Meshamish you, I should have serviced you, Rabbi Akiva, I should have been your Gabbai. So the Gemara tries to bring up, the Gemara continues, My Tanya Kavasi de Rabbi Ami, where in this price do we see a proof to Rabbi Ami? I'm continuing in Ayin, Ham, and Aleph, on the top, trying to finish the sugya. The Katani, Bein Shalasav Maimer, Bein Shalasav Maimer, right? At the end it says, Rabbi Akiva retorted to Rabbi Yeshua, right, whether he did Maimer or he didn't do Maimer. Obviously, we're talking about a case, even if he did Maimer. So where was that mentioned? Rabbi Lezer was the one who mentioned that he did Maimer, right, that he was Nigmarolo. Inami Mresha, the Shiktani, Mishnef Teller Shusad Nigmarolo. Or from the actual language that Rabbi Lezer used, right, Nichtel the Shusta, when he did Maimer, which is what he was talking about, Rabbi Lezer, which Rami Ami explained, the Shita Rabbi Lezer, Nigmarolo, which is Nigmarolo. Obviously, it means, right, Nicholas Shusa, how is she Nicholas Shusa, right? He has to do something. So it must be he did Maimer. If he didn't do Kiddushin, he didn't do Maimer, he didn't give her a diamond ring, what was Nigmarlo? Tivshot Minei Kshasa ba Maimer. Must say that we're talking about, or that was talking about at least, where he did Maimer. Let's just finish the sugya over here. We'll finish the Mishnah. Ma'ik shar dvarim kei nedarim kasani. What did Rabbi Kiva mean to say? Just like other things, so too is by nedarim. Amar Rav Hachi kasani. Iyat amod shen chayav and skila k'nara murasa. Right. What's the other thing that he's talking about that's specifically significant by a shomeres gava, that she's not married to him, right? Which I've been saying all along, right? Even if she's a nara, there's no din of nara murasa. Nara murasa, right? If she is engaged to someone and she goes ahead and commits adultery with another man, she's chayav skila, right? Here, if she goes ahead and is together with another man who's not the yavam, right? It's only a lav. There's definitely no skila. Amar Rav Ashi, our Mishnah also is precisely read like that. Ein yavama nikmur leisha kshem sharusa gmura leisha. Yavama, like the Lashon of Rabbi Kiva, Yavama is not gemura leisha. She's not completely connected to her husband. Kshem sharusa gmura leisha, and arusa is gemura leisha. She's completely connected to her husband, and therefore, if someone goes and violates her, or she decides to be violated with somebody else, so therefore, they're chayav skila, as opposed to a shemeres yavam, where if she's together with somebody else before chalita, it's only a lab, as I mentioned many times. That's the conclusion of tonight's share. We did a half of Ayin Hey and Aleph. Tomorrow will probably be a very short share. Hope you enjoyed tonight's share. Stay tuned for Enoch Ben Sino, where I discuss further this statement, which we seem to hold like, Rav Pinchas Mimshei the Rava, Kol Nadaras as Baal Hin Aldara, seems to indicate that just the obligation from Yibum, obligation to give her mazonos, to feed her, makes it like a marriage. Hard to understand. I'll explain it more. Enoch Ben Sion coming up next.